Hello lovely people of YouTube, and thanks for tuning in to another video. This is my first video on the MPC. I've had MPC Live 2 for about a year, and yep, it's took me this long to get around to doing a video on it, but there we go. So, a little bit of background stuff to start off with. I've been on a quest for quite a while to try and get a single groove box that I could get my whole live set into. So if I wanted to, I could just take one box out and play my whole live set, which includes playing synth parts live, includes some finger drumming and DJ transitions between songs. So I'm not like stopping, loading a new project and so on. So I've almost kind of got there with the Deluge, but in terms of playing, the pads on the Deluge are really small. So in terms of finger drumming, that's a bit of a faff. I then had a Machine Plus, which I thought would do the job, but the CPU and memory on that was awful, and the lack of the touchscreen really bothered me. So I sold that and got the MPC, and I've been trying to do it on the MPC for the last sort of, quite well, not constantly, but for a while. I've been trying to sort of get my live set on here, and I managed to sort of get there with probably about 3 or 4 songs on one project, but then the internal memory was full and the CPU was going off the scale. That is until now, because now I'm running the beta version of MPC 3, which I've had for about a week and a half. Been messing about with that, and probably the best feature on there now is the disc streaming. So at the moment I've got how many songs have I got? So basically I've got one project, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 songs on here at the moment. You're not going to be able to see this because it's tiny, but memory is on 11% and CPU is on 14%. So I can get so much more in here because it's streaming it all from disk. So that's probably one of the main things I like about the new MP3 version 3. There are quite a few things I don't like, which I will sort of address as well in this video. I might even do a separate video on that, but I'll try and address a few of those in this as well. I think the look of it is gorgeous. It's really nice, particularly the mix, the fact that we've got sliders rather than like, because before it was like horizontal little things that you couldn't really, in terms of playing with live, was a bit of a pain. And mixing things in and out. The biggest thing that, and I don't know why Akai have got rid of this, so if somebody's from Akai is watching, on the full release, for God's sake, bring back the clips, because that is such a big thing of playing live, particularly how I play live, and that's the only thing I think that is missing from this that would now make it perfect for a one-box live performance. So like I said before, my plan was to get one box that I could just take out if I wanted to, but then I can add things to it. So I could add in some drum pads via MIDI to play the internal sound, so I can do live proper drumming rather than finger drumming, which is what I would do on here if I just took this out with me. Obviously I can then take out other synths with me rather than using the internal synths in here, MIDI controllers and all that kind of thing, and then kind of have a bit of a modular rig, modular not as in a modular synth, but modular in that it can go as small or as big as I want, but this is the brain of it. Now, I've nothing against using computers to play live. I've done it many, many times in the past, and Ableton Live is brilliant for that. It's kind of what it was designed for. But I just wanted to get away from the laptop, purely because my laptop isn't the best in the world. It's not dead reliable. I've been running it, and I have played live many times. It's a Surface Pro 7. But the trouble with laptops is they're always doing stuff in the background. As much as you can kind of optimize it for music performance, there's always something going off in the background, and then it decides halfway through a set to do a Windows update or something like that, and I just found the reliability of it was not what I wanted. Obviously this is technically, it's still a computer, I guess, at the end of the day. But this just does music. It doesn't do anything else, you know. It's not looking for emails in the background or trying to connect to the well, this does connect to the internet, but anyway. And all the other nonsense that you get with computers. So, like I say, I'm not dissing the people who use computers playing live, because I think it's great. But for me, I just wanted to do it without. So I'm going to just try and talk through a little bit about how I'm kind of doing this. It's by no means perfect. There may be better ways of doing it, or I could fine-tune how I'm doing it. Please feel free to comment on that if you think I'm being a complete noob doing it this way. But here we go. So I'm going to start with this. I did like a remix of the Stranger Things theme. So the way I play my tracks live is there's 2 different ways I play them. One is if it's a song that I've written that's got a very specific structure, particularly one with vocals where it's verse, chorus and that kind of thing, I will let the whole song play as I wrote it from beginning to end, and then I will play bits over the top for the live point of view from that, which is the performance point. So Stranger Things is just on one sequence, and the way I'm working this is different sequences are different songs. Now that might be one sections of a song, which I'll come on to on the next bit. So for Stranger Things, I've got basically the audio, which I've just loaded in. So that's the whole audio track there, which you get a nice view of. If we go into the new arrange mode, we can see it there. Okay. Ooh. So there we've got the track. So as I press play, it basically just goes from the beginning, from left to right, normal way, like a DAW player. Okay, and then what I've got is on a second track here, these are the bits I'm playing live, so you can see it's Stranger bass and drum. So I have these pads on here, and then I do some live drumming, and I've got a crash in there. So for example, I would be playing this like this. I won't play the whole song. I'll probably get a copyright strike by now. Okay, so I've got crash on there. And then I'll just go into the little first bit of the song. Okay, and so I'm basically just doing this. And so on. Okay, so that's how I perform that. So that could be the finger drumming, or if I attach my drum pads to it, I would play those with pads with sticks, and I would have exactly the same things on here. That would control the MIDI through into here, and I would play them on the pads. So that's one way of doing it. I've got another track like that, which is the next one along, which is called Close Your Eyes. So the way I would transition, say, from this into another song, I'm not going to be able to do like fancy DJ transitions because this is at 168 beats per minute. The next one is at 123. So for that, I would just let it play straight in. So if I start this towards the end of... So let's pretend we're going to go from this track into Close Your Eyes. If I just play it from here, and then I just go on to next sequence. And while that's doing that, I would find the bits I'm playing live here, which is this. And then, okay, we're straight into that next track. For this one, I play these bass parts live. And I've also got a loop on here. And then some like percussion, like little loopy bits in here. So while we're on this one, let's just talk about the lack of clips. So here I've got this loop, which is fine. It's all warped. It plays in time with the tempo. But every time it gets to the end, I've got to press the damn thing again. So you could do it that way round, or if we put it to note on, it will keep looping while I hold it, and then that's it, right? So yeah, what I want that to be able to do is just a toggle on and off. But also you've got to be bang on with your timing on this, because if I start that a fraction of a way out on timing, it's not going to kind of launch it on the correct time. So if any way that they could, what I would love to see is for that, so I can just press play. Let's say I press play on beat 2 of the bar before I want it to start. Same as clips used to work before, same as you would when you're launching a clip or a scene on Ableton Live. That flashes and then it starts playing, and it carries on until we press it again, and it ends at the end of the bar. If we got that, that would be fantastic, and it would make my transitions so much easier as well. So yeah, that's the kind of the biggest issue I've got with this at the moment, is that they've got rid of clips. Why, I don't know. But anyway, rant over. So Close Your Eyes, yeah, this is the same as I play this one basically from beginning to end in the same way as I do with Stranger Things. So then we have songs where they're kind of They do have a structure when I recorded them, but it's ones where I want to sort of be able to almost remix them live, play them in a different order, and almost like having hot cue points on a DJ set. So for this track Inversion, I've got different sequences for different sections. So I've got the intro, I've got then intro part 1, then like a build, part 1A, part 2, the drop, and so on. And if you double tap on there, you can kind of quickly go between and choose your next one on this new version. So, for example, let's say coming out of something like Close Your Eyes, I would possibly do kind of keeping that going. I'll do a different one as a transition. So, Inversion intro. Let's just play that. Okay, so this starts like this. So the way this is set up is, again, this is partly due to the lack of clips. I've got one track, okay, just for that song for Inversion. And then all of these pads on here, let's go over to sample assign so you can see them. So the first like 4, and I always leave a gap in between each one. So these 5 are basically an 8-bar loop that I've taken from my song of that. Let's say it's the first 8 bars. So I've got a kick, I've got the snare part on its own, which is that. Okay, I've got a track for the hats, track for the percussion. That then gives me the option of, let's say I'm playing this first bit, and we go into the mix. Obviously I've got the control here for the whole volume of the whole track, but I can then obviously, you know, take bits in and out as I wish. And also if we go on this view, we can obviously mute and solo stuff. So if I didn't want that first bit to start, you know, with everything just like the kick coming in, we've got that at easy mutes and so on. And to make that play, basically all I've got is, let's go into the grid view. So this is the kick along the bottom, which is this track here. I'm going to talk about the kick in a minute because I'm using the same kick all the way through. And then all I've done is I've put a MIDI note on the very first beat, and that is just triggering these. The length of that lasts for the length of that sequence. So let's just play that through and you'll see. So it's triggered the notes. Okay, it'll play through the whole 8-bar sequence. And then it'll get back to the beginning. They were about to stop, and it'll just trigger them again. You can see those triggering on there. So as I then go into the next section, it'll wait to the end of the 8 bars, and you'll see it'll trigger the next group of pads up here, which is the next section of the song. So here we go. 2, 3, 4. Okay, you might have been on a different group then anyway. Okay, so that allows me to go through all the sections of the song kind of automatically, and I've got like 3 or 4 banks of those, just all the different sections of the song as it goes through, each one with a MIDI note just on the very first beat, and then it going all the way through. What I've basically done with the kick is, rather than having to try and put that on every single one, I just sort of, when I get my first sequence, I copy that across, so I've got the kick across into the next one, just repeats all the way through. Now one thing I do like to do is to be able to mute the kick whenever I want, across whatever track it is. So the way I set the kick up is, because I use the same kick sound all the way through for a bit of like continuity of kick sound through the track, is where are we on? That's the kick. So I've got a submix which is called kick. So I'm sending the kick out to a submix, and every track I put the kick on, I will have just one version of the kick, which is always down here, and I'll always send that out to the kick submix. What I then did was, on the Q links, I went to the Q link edit. This is great. I think this is new, where you can have like this project thing. And then basically this, and I've done it so I can touch it here, okay, that I've set it up so it will mute the submix with the kick on. So let's give you an example. There's the kick. Just tap that, or I can turn it, and it mutes the kick for whatever track. So as long as I send the kick to that submix, it works great. And the way I did that for is you have it on down here on toggle, and that will just turn it off and off just by a little tap. So it's almost like a mute button for the kick, which works really well for all of that. So there are all the different sections of the song. So let's say, so for this track, this is like the end section that I would use for my transition. Oh, the other bit I was going to do before I do the transition is, and then I'm playing bass parts over the top of this. So I've got a bass pad part, which is on the Mini D, which is one of the internal synths on here. And the great thing is you can change these, and it doesn't change on here. And again, just double tap on these, and you can select. And I've basically the tracks that I play live, I've got the first 3 ones on here, so I can find them easily. So, if I can remember the notes. I can't remember the notes. But anyway, I can't. That's the only downside with this, is you got to remember the order of the pads. So definitely for something like this, I would probably have a MIDI keyboard so I can play it a bit easier in there. What I've then done on, again, these Q links is the top one. I've mapped to the filter cutoff. So on Q link number 1 position there. So that gives me the... Okay, and I would play that bit like that. So let's say we were going to transition from this track into the next track. So I would probably have this, doing the kick back in. So what I would do is, it says, I would probably start to like take certain bits out of this one for get it on the inversion track. So, it's just a case of finding... Again, life would be a lot easier if we had clips. So I might start to just take these out, just fade them out. Really get it to sort of... mostly just like percussion elements left. That kind of thing. Now, if we had clips, what I could do is I could go into Trust. I mean, I can do this now. I can start to introduce these, but I've got to remember to keep playing it. Okay, so that's the hi-hat part from Trust, which I'm going to have to keep pressing every 8 bars, which is the next track. Okay, so I can start to bring parts of the next track in. I just got to remember to keep pressing them. Okay, so I can go back to the mix, keep that on that. I might mute the kick, and then probably at that point we'd go into the next track. Bring the kick back in. Okay, so it's not ideal. I'm still practicing a little bit of how to do it, but again, if we had clips, that'd be great, because I could start to bring those clips in on Trust, start to fade all the stuff down on the other track and get into each one. So that's how I'm doing kind of the intro, the transitions and stuff. Again, I think for this one I use the same bass pad when I play live on that one. What's the other tracks I've got in here? Consciousness. So this one has a 303 part in it. So again, I would normally probably take my 303 out with me. It's not an original 303, but I've got various different 303 machines. But for this one, I've got a reasonable counter sound in. So what I did for the 303 controls is on the second bank of Q links, we've got cutoff, we've got resonance, and then I've got filter amount and filter delay. So I've got the controls you would have on a 303. Because this one is mostly kind of me fiddling with 303 stuff, but I have got like a vocal sample on there, and I've got some distortion on here as well. But it's not a bad sounding 303. I used again the Model D for that, or the Mini D. I call it a Model D because it looks like a Model D. Yeah, use that for that, which kind of works quite well as that 303 part. And then I've got, in part of this track as well, I play this like synth pad part. So again, I can do everything on here if I wish. So what I'll do just to finish off is I'm partway through just putting this new track in. So Consciousness has got a lot of sections. So I may need to break that down a little bit more. So fading, I'm going to just put the next section in. So I've done the first section. Let's just get it up there, just so you can see how I put these tracks in and use these pads and so on. So first thing I would do is go to pencil tool. I'm going to copy the sequence and we're going to go to the next unused one. We'll just call this one fading 2 because it's like the second section of it. And we click do it and do it. So there's nothing on there. Looking at this bank of pads, I've pretty much used all of those up. So and those. So the reason I leave a gap I'll come to in a minute. So I'm going to put the next group of things on here. So we go to the browser. I've just got to find where I've put those. They are on here. Find the track. So you can see that's the folder with all the things of 2 in. If I just open it, we can see we've got all these things. So I am just going to load all of those. Okay, and then we're going to go over to sample assign. Now for these ones, I suppose I should put them in a specific order, but for now I've been very lazy and I'm just putting them anywhere. So this is my sample pool. The ones with the green thing next to it means it's going to stream from disk. I'm going to come on to that in a minute, and if it's the grayed out, it means it's doing it from memory. So I'm going to start with this pad, and I'm just going to put these on at random. Okay, so we've got all those in there now. So they're on these pads. So the reason I leave a gap is just so I can see, right, okay, that's one section of the song, that's the next section, and it makes it easier on the grid view as well when we do it that way around. Now I could from here, if you just do a long press, I can then choose to stream from disk, okay, or delete it. Now the only way I find of doing it like this, if you stream from disk, is it does that and then it goes into the sample pool alphabetically. Then you've got to keep scrolling back to the top and do all the others. The easier way I find to do it is go to your project, take off streaming, and then that just shows you any of the tracks that are in memory rather than streaming. So I'm just going to do the rest of these. I'm going to stream all these from the disk. Okay, so they're now all streamed from disk. And I've got a 1 terabyte internal drive that I've put in here. Okay, so what I now need to do is, so it's these pads here. We're on bank 2. And let's go over to the MIDI grid, which is here. So I'm going to leave the kick in across the bottom. That's at the bottom. I still need that. These are from the section before. So all I would need to do is just going to erase those. Okay, and then this is the next section. Let's just move that up. That I've got. Let's just zoom in a little bit more. And then all I'm doing is, so I can check it's the right ones. I know it's the right ones I'm doing. And then I'm just going to put get rid of that one MIDI note in there to just trigger that sample. And that's basically it. That's the second section done. And obviously I've got mutes on the kick still. Not got mutes on the kick, right. That probably means I haven't done my routing correctly yet on the kick. So, need to click on there just to get over to the pad. Audio out. Okay, that is going. I don't know why. Right, okay, the one thing you've got to remember is, because I'm on the second bank of Q links, if we do shift and go back 1, got to remember just to go back. There we go. I have done it. And that's how I bring new tracks in. So then I would go through the rest of the song and put all that in there. And then, so let's say I'm playing on that one. If I want to go back to, I can obviously scroll down round on here. But if you double tap, you get a list. So it's a little bit easier sometimes to find. So let's say I want to go to straight into the next track of Consciousness. And we're straight in. Okay, so like instant cuts from one track to another are pretty straightforward. That's dead easy. The transitions are a little bit trickier because you've got to keep pressing the thing to like bring those next loops in. That's why I want clips back, so they can be playing in the background while I can keep those going, fade them in, fade them out, and so on. But that's basically how I'm working on my live set now on the MPC. It is working really well. It takes a little bit of getting used to navigate around, and I'm not entirely sure how navigable, if that's a word, this is going to be when I've got a lot more songs on it, but I think it's okay. It's good for now. I think I'm not sure if you can. What would be really useful was if you could like reorder, because you can reorder your tracks in here. So let's say this is number 11 and I wanted to change that to be track number 1. You can do that, but I don't think you can do that without on the sequencers without having to like copy and paste. So if you could do that as well, that would be a great feature, because what I would probably do is I would have all my songs in here, and then I would just rearrange the order that I want to play them in depending on the set I'm playing, and do it that way. But there we go. Yeah, memory is still only on what, 12% is that? CPU on 14%. So you can have so much in, and it loads so much faster as well when you're streaming from disk. So I hope that was of some interest to people. If you don't use an MPC, none of this would probably make any sense to you. But yeah. I do like the Beta MP3. It could be improved on. It could be absolutely perfect if they bring back clips. I mean, another option, actually, while I'm jabbering on, is another thing I like is the let's go into the arranger, is the locate marker things. So these are great. They could be improved on in 2 ways. First of all, we could do with more of them because we've only got 6. So let's say I'm going to set marker 1. So to go in, if you want to edit them, just click on there, go to locators. So let's say I put locator 1 at, I don't know, bar 27. Okay, and I'm just going to leave it as locator 1. So we can see now as you scroll across, it's there. So if I'm playing this track from the beginning, I can instantly jump to that locator, which is fantastic. But again, you've got to be on time. It's like a hot cue on a DJ software mixer or whatever. What would be great is if you could do it again like Ableton do, if there was an option for it to be like wait until the end of the bar. So if I'm like getting to the end of bar 3 and I press it on beat 2 and we go to that locator, it flashes and it waits and then it goes on to the next bit, which is what things like the Deluge, and obviously you can do that in Ableton Live. That would be fantastic if you could do that for locators, because that would actually then mean I wouldn't necessarily need to have all these separate sequences for all my tracks, because those different sections I could just have one big long audio file and then I could jump to the next section, and that would tidy things up no end. So there's a few things that could be improved on, and hopefully, Akai, if you're watching this, please bring those features in for me. The other thing I can't get my head round, and if anybody knows how to sort this out, please let me know, because they bought in tempo automation, right? Which I don't think was in MPC version 2. Whatever doodah it was. But you can't seem to write it in here. Okay, so if I go insert, and then we go, hang on, I've got to remember how to do this. Just bear with me a sec. Right, let's do it this way. I'm not going to do it that way. Okay, so we're going to bring that up, and we're going to go to grid. No, if we do on there, we're going to click on automation. That's it. Okay, and then we can go down here, and if we go to add new, and for global, we've now got sequence tempo. So, great, we've got automation for tempo, but it's totally unusable, right? Because if I try and write something in, okay, that's at what, 50 something beats per minute. As I go up, it like jumps up like 20 beats per minute each time. So for me to be able, if I wanted to go from like 120 to 125, it is impossible to do that with your finger, because I don't know if you can see these, but that's 119.9. These increments are just way too much. It does work, it changes the tempo, but what I want to be able to do is then probably put something roughly in here, or to be able to go to list edit, and that's just the volume one. Okay, go on here and find it, but it doesn't show up in here, and be able to actually write in the tempo. That would be great. Or to be able to, and again, I may just be a complete noob and I've got this wrong. Again, if I'm doing it wrong, please tell me. Or to be able to just like record automation of the tempo would be great as well. But anyway, that's a thing for another day, right? I've jabbered on way too long on this. If you've stuck with me this far, thanks for watching. Usual things, like, subscribe, share the video around. If you want to support the channel, you can do so on Patreon. There is a link to that in the description below. I will probably put some MPC free stuff on there. There's a lot of deluge stuff on there at the moment and various other bits and bobs. But yeah, any of your support is massively appreciated, and big shout out to anybody who is continuing to support me on there. So thanks for watching. What I will probably do is I'm going to practice this for another week or two, and then I'll try and just do a little live performance of how I'm putting all this together so you can see how it kind of works as well. So keep an eye out for that. If I've already done that by the time you're watching this video, because you may be watching this 3 months in advance, 3 months in the future from when I recorded this, then I'll put a link to it in here as well. Okay, thanks for watching. See you on the next one.